I'm doing pre-production or development, especially with like narrative projects, which just means scripted work, I am trying to get into that world as much as possible. So I am researching, I am listening to music that is in that era or that time period or of that culture. I'm listening to news outlets. I'm listening to watching documentaries, because I'm really trying to get myself into that world as much as possible so that I can really make it as authentic as possible. I'm talking to people who are from that culture or from that world so that I can really direct as much as possible, like an accurate portrayal of the people. I then create a lookbook, most of the time on Pinterest, just to get myself into this
What
world.
is that exactly, the lookbook?
I just take a lot of images that are inspiring to me, whether it's characters that I want to create or the place, the scenery, the music, and I'm creating this in a document and putting it all together so that when the production designer is like, oh, what are some of your references, or what's
so almost like a
color
PowerPoint.
Yeah, PowerPoint, a mood board
Okay.
of, to a certain extent, that really gets me entrenched in this world. I also create a soundtrack for that particular project because I'm like, this is the music that's really in this world. So I'm just trying to feed myself. It's like I'm like a rapper, like training for a battle, or like a Rocky, who's like in the throes of it. So I consider myself like almost like an athlete when it comes to directing, because it's like I gotta just keep feeding myself with as much of that world that I'm trying to create. And even if it's not something that I've seen before, I'm still trying to take different influences and trying to figure out what are they doing
to stir
here?
you up.
Yeah, what's the universality of this storytelling that I really appreciate? I create a lot of lists, just because that's just how my brain functions. Like if there's certain cinematographers, I'm creating a list in an Excel sheet and saying, this is this person's name, this is their website, this is, how we contact them. And sometimes I will contact them, or if it's the producer, usually they'll contact them, CC me on them, and I'll either have, kind of like a pre-interview where I'll either call you on the phone or we'll meet and chat, and I'll try to vibe and try to see, does your vibe work with me? And I do that.
You vet them.
Yes, I think you have to. You have to vet everyone.
Yes.
I mean, even friendship, you have to say, does this person work for me? Even a relationship, do we work for each other? Is this mutually beneficial for the both of us? Can we communicate?
What are your three?
Like you.
What are your three top questions that you're asking when you're vetting somebody?
Yeah, I try to get inside their head. I try to not tell too much of what I think of the project, and I try to hear, what would you add? What would you contribute? What do you think are suggestions, or what's the world that you're thinking of when it comes to this particular project? Who are some of the people that inspire you? How do you like to work? How do you like to communicate mostly? If I text you, in the middle of the night at like 10 o'clock because I saw this image, are you going to be offended? I need to know, what is our shorthand going to be with each other, and if it can be something that is expounded upon or not. And I'm all for good people. I love humble, down to earth, hardworking people who can crack a joke. And if I don't sense that, I'm kind of like, you could be as talented as you want. You could be freaking the Godard of cinematography, but why would I work with you if you're, being a dick? I'm good. In production, we're having a lot of meetings. We're going to the location. We're taking photos. We're all the keys, which means basically keys just mean the department leads for that particular department. So the cinematographer, the location manager, the gaffer,
your set
designer, all these folks, we're all in the same space. We're talking, we're communicating. And I love to hear also, what do they think would be best in this space? I love to
collaboration.
Surround myself around smart, intelligent people who are also very collaborative. Because if you can't be collaborative, that's one of the things that I kind of see in the pre-interview. Because if you're not working from a team player mindset, we can't do this. Like, film is not a dictatorship. It's very much collaborative, democracy. Yes, I'm the one calling action, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit up here and act like everyone does not have their key role and is very important. All this beautiful footage that you've captured, now you have to edit it. For me, that's always one of my strongest things that is very challenging, I would say, because for me, it's like I have to give, someone my footage, and I have to trust that you're going to elevate the piece and that you're going to understand my sensibilities as a director or as a writer-director, depending on what format it is. And so for me, that's always a hard collaboration. And then I would say you have to do sound and then color. Sound just means like there are certain sounds that you hear in movies that are really like crisp
sound design
and amazing. Yeah, and you're like, what is all of this? And sometimes it's Foley, it's sound design, it's someone going in and crafting and molding the sound to just elevate the piece. And then you have color. The color is just going to make it even more prettier. And so, you might want to draw out certain colors like yellows or magentas or whatever colors, you're really happy with trying to do in terms of like that piece. Color is the last stage. And then depending on if it's a film or if it's a commercial or whatever, then you put it out into the universe and you say, hey, universe.
Give it the seal of approval.
Yeah. Go back into the cutting room and say, what actually needs to be in this short? What can be taken out? And that was a very great learning experience for me, because I didn't realize that, yes, it's a short film, but does every frame that is in this 18-minute cut need to be in there? No. So I would really charge people to make more 10 to 12-minute shorts, because that's really the sweet spot. Anything over like 15 is really hard for programmers, because you got to think, if there are 5 films in your block and yours is taking up 17, 18 minutes, that's a lot. That doesn't even give other people an opportunity, and people's attention spans are just so short. There was a shift I saw when I recut Queen and made it shorter. I was like, oh wow, like I guess I didn't need that scene. And I guess it makes me also think from a longer standpoint with making a feature soon, that everything in the film really has to count. It shouldn't just be in there just for frills and thrills or just because it's a pretty shot. Like, I think every frame needs to be saying something to the viewer, like, this is what I want you to feel, or this is how this character is emoting. And so I really learned that. When I'm writing narrative work, at some point you got to get feedback. So I'm getting feedback from people that I trust, that are giving me constructive criticism and saying, this is how you can make it better, or have you thought about maybe this or maybe that. And so once that is locked, because I think what I also didn't realize about screenwriting, not shorts, but more so with longer form, is that screenwriting is very much a science, and it takes time, and you got to be easy and gentle with yourself, because that might take a little longer depending on where you are with your writing skills. And I just didn't realize. I think maybe they told us in film school, but I was just hard-headed and didn't listen, and was just like, I just made this amazing feature. I just wrote it and it's good. No, you vomited a draft. That needs a lot of work and is horrible. Okay. So I've have learned over the years that with writing, it takes a lot of pruning, and it takes a lot of rewriting, and a lot of getting it right, a lot of perfecting, because Hollywood unfortunately can be very unimaginative. So you need to make sure that it's spelled out on the page. You have
your world created. How do you like to work with actors? Because that's a collaboration in itself sometimes. Sometimes not, but hopefully if it's working together, it should be a collaboration.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited to get back more to narrative work, because I feel like with documentaries, it's like you just get it on the day. Whereas with narrative, it's like you're working, you're rehearsing, you're really trying to try out different things.
What kind of rehearsals do you like? as a director?
I love like method and like getting into the actor's headspace of like what are some instances that have happened to you that are similar to the script that we can kind of expound upon and we can really draw out and we can really create this world. But when we've created it, let's leave it alone so that we can still allow for spontaneity when we're shooting, because now we're in a good spot and we're in a groove. I don't want to ruin that, because then it doesn't allow for sometimes spontaneity to happen. And I'm someone who loves not being so fixated to the script. The script is a great template, but it's not everything. You got to know what you're seeing in front of you. And if it's not working on the day, you have to sort out, okay, what do I do? And I think for directors, it's great to take acting classes if you can, or speak to a lot of actors about this is the type of language, I would like, or like actors like when you're directing them. And I think it just makes you a better director to know the different types of methods that are out there. Sometime I know with one of my films with Eve that I did with Project Involve, I was saying the name of her partner because I knew that it would elicit a certain reaction that I was not getting. And so I said her partner's name and it worked. So it's like you only know this by directing a lot of different types of actors. So I would say if you don't have money to go in film school right now, or that's not what you can do, I would say use your friends, see if they can be in your pieces, but then at some point put stuff on Backstage and put them on Actors Access and see if you can also, as you're growing, that you're also growing with the talent, and the talent is showing you what they're made of, and you're really being tested as a director with how do I get this person to really be vulnerable in this moment. I know what that person just said was so horrible, but how do I get them to be almost the
open.
Opposite?
It's to be open. It's to be open. It's not so much a seasoned actor, and then I'm gonna get off of this real quick, but really well trained actors.
Yeah.
Allow for that vulnerability. They just come full. So wherever you take them, they're willing. They're a good dance partner.
I've been fortunate to work with so many celebrities and high profile folks, and it's just it just makes me pinch myself, because when I first came out here, yes, I wanted to do longer form and narrative, but I also was like, how am I going to make a living doing what I love? And so for me, commercials was a great opportunity to still practice the art of directing constantly, to still have something to show is really important to me. And so I am so thankful that I've worked with like tons of brands now, but it didn't just happen overnight. It took a lot of meeting different companies, showing them a lot of my narrative work, and then being like, well, you don't have a commercial. And I'm like, well, that's why I need a commercial. And finally I got the Girl Gaze opportunity with Levi's, which I believe is what has propelled me to get more commercial work. It was a branded short documentary on the Me Too founder. And so it was really, it's really wild to me because she didn't know me at all. But somebody was like, you need to talk to that Britney girl, and so basically a woman that I DP'd a documentary was like, you need to talk to her because she's trying to do this project with you. And so me and my crew of 6 women, we went in her home in Harlem and we made it work, and she just unfolded for like 2 hours. And I just was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful how this woman who does not know me from a can of paint is now unfolding in front of the camera and telling me. And then after that, I've just been doing a lot of commercial work. If you are very serious about being in this business, that you have to be tenacious, that you can't take no for an answer. And even when you do have that be the answer, you still have to go against the grain and kind of be rebellious and say, okay, if I am to direct, if that's what I want to do, I have to find a way to do it. And I knew kind of with being there that if I wanted to be taken seriously as a director, I would have to find a way to make my own projects, to kind of not used that as my landing, that I had to find my own artistic abilities and write my own projects, because that wasn't enough for me. So for me, it was like, I need to be challenged. I need to do things that matter to me. And the only way that I was going to do that is if I left. And I was like, I can't stay here. Even though I was learning some stuff, I also just felt like in order for me to do my thing, I got to move. Yeah, I think film schools will teach you the craft, but sometimes not necessarily the business. Even from doing a commercial standpoint, I didn't even know how to do like a treatment. So the first branded content thing that I did with the Me Too founder, Tarana Burke, my treatment for that I presented was so long. I didn't realize that it didn't need to be that long, but I didn't learn that in film school.
So what else does film school not give you?
Whew. I think even just as practical as learning about agents and managers, and like, how do you get access to them? What do you say in the meetings? Even if they're blowing smoke up your ass, excuse me, but you know, how are you going to serve me? How do I know that you're really invested in me for the long haul and not just right now because I have this catchy project, or because I'm diverse, or because I'm a part of this new wave?
A woman.
A woman, a black woman, whatever. How do I know that you really are invested in my career and me trying out new things? I think film school is a great place for you to learn your voice, and your voice cannot be taught. A lot of people at film school, I felt, were trying to be Ang Lee, or trying to be Scorsese or Spike Lee. Who are you? What is your voice? What are the stories that you need to tell? Nobody can inform that. And so to me, it's like, it's so important if you know who you are before film school. And if that's 21, if that's 35, if that's 40, okay. But just know when you get into this space, know who the heck you are, because they're going to try to break you. It's hard because I don't think I would be the filmmaker I am without NYU, but I don't advise people to get into debt. So that's what's also a little bit tricky, because everyone's financial, situation is different. And NYU, USC, AFI, all these places are very expensive to go to if you're not a person who comes from money. So it's hard for me to tell somebody, yes, go to film school. What I would say, if you choose not to go to film school, you still need to do your due diligence of becoming the best image maker. I call it more so being an image maker, because you are creating images that are going to live after we're gone, and it's almost like they're immortal, and you want people to say, God, this person really did an amazing job with creating, this little sector in the world that now we pay attention to because they created these images that matter. So yeah, that one's really tough in terms of should you go to film school or not. I would say if you don't, though, you need to be on sets. You need to be assisting directors, assisting producers. If you don't like that, get in the camera department. You need to get your hands wet. And the only way to get your hands wet is like being on sets, shadowing people, and also becoming a cinephile, which I want to become more of. Go, if there are filmmakers that you really are inspired by, look at their work from chronological, like from start to finish, and say, okay, Hitchcock, I want to start learning why were you like the master of suspense. Okay, watch his first film and then keep on going down. You don't have to be in film school to do that. So there are a lot of things that you don't have. I mean, you can
still get an education without film school if you
do the work.
Yes.
Back a few years ago, I did this program called Horizon Award. I found it, and I feel like people are always like, how do you find stuff? The producer hat in you should kick in at some point. If you are looking for grants, looking for fellowships, looking for opportunities, no, they're not going to just magically appear. Get your ass on Google and look for them, because there's so many out there really looking for you to apply. But I think people are not applying themselves by even just doing research.
What should they enter?
You could do no film school, film grants. You could do film fellowships. You could do Horizon Award. You could do Sundance, screenwriting opportunities. I mean, there's so many grants and so many organizations that are dedicated to giving you and offering you support as a filmmaker throughout the journey of you as a filmmaker. So it's just like, it would be crazy to not apply to some of this stuff, or even, mentorship. Everyone needs mentorship. And so I was like, I am going to apply to this. If you can find loopholes, if you can find ways to getting to where you want to be without being deterred when maybe you didn't get into Sundance that year, find another way. Or, oh, your friend is going to Sundance, maybe tag along and also go with your friend to Sundance and also meet who you need to meet, because you do have to be, I would say, in the game player regions, which are New York and primarily LA, if you want to do film and television. I'm not going to say that you can't be elsewhere like in Atlanta or New Orleans, but you kind of need to be where the industry is.